everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is John Hardie, Deputy Director of the FDD's Russia program. John, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
Just over the past couple of days, we have seen significant developments in Russia's continued war on Ukraine, so I would love for you to break them down for us. I'm going to start at the beginning. Over the weekend, Russia launched its largest air attack on Ukraine that this war has ever seen, the largest one in the past over 3.5 years. This comes at a time where President Trump and Western allies are continuing to try to negotiate a peace deal between the two countries. So to start off the conversation, what do you make of that aerial attack?
Well, I think with that attack and with the various other statements the Kremlin has made over the past few weeks since the Alaska summit, Putin has made very clear that he has no intention of abandoning his maximalist demands in Ukraine. His position is, sure, he's ready for peace, but only if that means Ukrainian capitulation. And so far, he's shown no willingness to back down from that. To date, President Trump, unfortunately, despite some kind of tough talk, repeated deadlines for Russian compromise, President Trump has yet to act on that. I hope that will change soon.
I want to get your opinion on President Trump's response to this attack. This is what he said, quote, "I am not happy with them. I am not happy with anything having to do with that war." And before the summit between Trump and Putin last month, President Trump told a reporter that there would be very severe consequences if Putin didn't agree to end the war that day. And obviously, as we know, the summit came and went, there was no agreement there, and the war continues on. And not only that, Putin this week is escalating that war. He's ratcheting it up. So, A, what are your thoughts on President Trump's response here? And B, do you have a sense that there's a little bit of egg on President Trump's face because he's having this tough rhetoric? He's saying there's going to be tough consequences and then not really following through with them that we're seeing.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that I'd like for President Trump to do is to work with European allies in ramping up economic pressure on Russia. I think President Trump has threatened this at various times in the past. He did impose, he doubled the tariffs on India, citing India's purchases of Russian oil. Unfortunately, those tariffs have not proven effective. I think a more effective approach would be to use so-called secondary sanctions to target Russian oil export revenue. There are kind of different ways that could be implemented, but I think that would be more effective than using tariffs. They're more scalpel-like, precise tool, and I think would have a greater impact on decision-making at the level of individual firms.
I do now want to move to something we saw on Wednesday. Russian drones entered Poland's airspace, and Poland did shoot those drones down. But I'm curious what message you think the Kremlin is sending here, especially given that Poland is a NATO ally.
I think based on the number of drones involved in that incident, the flight paths, some of the technical indications from the drones themselves, specifically the fact that some of them appeared to be carrying additional fuel bladders, it looks like it was not accidental that they went into Polish airspace. What exactly the Moscow was trying to achieve with that is unclear. It could be kind of a probe of the Western response. Like some Polish officials have indicated at least some of the drones were kind of trying to bypass Ukrainian air defenses in Western Ukraine. Whatever the case may be, I think it does demand a muscular response from the West. I think that could include the sanctions we've already discussed. I think another measure that should be taken, really regardless of the Polish drone incident, is untying Ukraine's hands for long-range strikes against Russia, including providing Ukraine with missiles and targeting data, mission planning support, permission to use all that in Russia, to go after some of these key Russian defense industrial sites, including the plants that make the very drones that bombard Ukraine and now entered into a Polish airspace.
And that act, the drone incursion was called everything from a threat to crossing a red line to an act of war. What do you make of that? Was it just a provocation or was it something more serious?
Like I said, I think we know, or I think we're fairly confident that the drones didn't enter on accident. again, what the Kremlin's exact intentions were, I think, are unclear. I think it seems likely that they were probing the Western response, but again, I think we're going to have to wait for more information to make a firmer assessment. But I think what the Kremlin's exact intention was is in some ways besides the point, because they're going to be looking for our response, and strongly worded statements are great, but I think action is really key here. One additional thing we could do, in addition to the sanctions and missiles that I mentioned, we could have NATO countries kind of join with Ukraine in shooting down Russian drones and cruise missiles in like the portion of Ukrainian airspace in Western Ukraine. I think that would send a kind of a more muscular response to the Kremlin as well.
And President Trump, he was asked to respond to this. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer asked on X what the point of the Trump-Putin-Alaska summit was because of this, and he said this, quote, "Putin pawn Donald Trump is cementing himself as the Neville Chamberlain of our time." President Trump then posted on X this, quote, or Truth Social, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go." What does that "here we go" mean?
That's a great question. I wondered that myself. I mean, I think the U.S. ambassador in NATO gave a little bit more robust statement. I think the President Trump's statement was kind of ambiguous. I would hope to see that ambiguity cleared up in the coming days with the more forceful response that we discussed.
And all of this, like I said at the top of the conversation, is coming as President Trump and other Western allies are trying to broker this peace between Russia and Ukraine. What do you make of this timing, aside from it's pretty clear that Russia doesn't want to go down the diplomacy path?
I think Putin has had ample opportunity to compromise. He's shown time and again he's not willing to do that. I think the theory of success for these negotiations is that over time, through economic pressure, through increased support for Ukrainian forces, Putin realizes that, okay, yeah, I'm never going to abandon my decades-long objective of dominating Ukraine, but maybe it's time to at least pause this war because of the economic pressure I'm facing, because I finally realized that the Russian general staff is full of hot air when they say Ukrainian forces are going to collapse. And so, I'm not going to achieve anything more on the battlefield. Let's settle for a pause. That, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but to me, that's if there's a pathway to peace, that's probably it.
And as we sit here right now, it's about a month from that summit in Alaska. And in an interview that aired this week on ABC News, Zelensky told them this, quote, "It's a pity that Ukraine was not there because I think that President Trump gave Putin what he wanted." So now as we sit here, when the dust has settled a bit on that summit and looking at the past events of the last couple of days, I mean, do you agree with Zelensky here that Trump gave Putin what he wanted, A, and B, what exactly was that?
I don't think the mere fact of meeting with the Russian president is necessarily wrong. I do think that Putin got some kind of reward from that summit. But if you use that summit to good ends, then it's worth it. Unfortunately, the goals that the Trump administration set going in, and namely a ceasefire and a trilateral meeting with Zelensky and Putin and President Trump, they have not been realized. And the kind of sticks that President Trump held out, the tougher economic pressure, that has also not happened. So it's just kind of left us in limbo. I think one good thing that has come out of it is what seems like a little bit more firm commitment from President Trump to play some role in security guarantees for Ukraine. It's still unclear exactly what that'll look like, but hopefully more meat will be put on the bones in the coming weeks.
What specifically are you looking out for next, especially with this drone incursion? Because now NATO is meeting, NATO's getting involved. What specifically is on your radar?
Yeah, well, we've already discussed, I think, some of the responses I'd like to see. Poland, of course, already invoked Article 4. There'll be a meeting at the UN Security Council. I would hope that the Trump administration during that UN meeting would make a very firm statement rejecting the Russian incursion. I would hope they would give strong consideration to some of the measures we discussed.
And President Trump, he said to reporters he's not happy with Russia's attack. It seems like there's a sense of exasperation in his tone. He said something to the effect of, I've ended wars before. I thought this was the easiest war that I was going to end, and that's not seeming to be the case. Do you think there's going to come a point in the near future or at all that President Trump is like, you know what, it's very clear that this war is not ending anytime soon, and I'm removing myself from trying to broker peace?
Seems to have been his instinct at various points, over the past months. And I think each time he's sort of re-engaged. So I think right now he's juggling a lot of other balls. Of course, I'm not sure how much of his bandwidth he's actually devoting to this. I think, given that as he notes, this problem is Putin's kind of views on this war in Ukraine are rather intractable. I do think it's going to take a concerted effort from the administration, including President Trump personally, to get this done. And I think that includes, the tougher military pressure, tougher economic pressure that we've discussed.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look out for. And John, I always appreciate you coming on here and providing your insights and breaking down these big developments. I hope you can join me again soon. John Hardie, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.